Hey, it's our Easter Monday, and we're talking about signs of hope. How do we find it, especially now? And at Life Together part, we have like a different practicing presence. Like, what thing can we do that helps set a rhythm for the day and also helps us think about Easter? And the one for today is make something. So there's like great stories in there of like people who've tried to like discover something new about the day by like making something. It could be something big, it could be something small or silly or anything. But part of the reason that practice stood out for me was a story I heard, I don't know if it was last year, but it was this guy in Minnesota named Ron Rudolph. You remember that because my dad is a historian of Christmas. Ron Rudolph. And Ron had lost his wife to brain cancer. And he couldn't sleep and he was devastated. And so he, to keep busy, went out to his garage and started cutting a few pieces of wood to make a birdhouse. And his wife always loved birds. And so he made this little bluebird house. And then he really still needed to keep busy, so he made another bluebird house. And then his family started reaching out to other people and being like, well, Ron's making bluebird houses. Does anyone want to buy them? And sharing the story about their loss of their mom. And so people started signing up to buy them, and like typically they're people united in an experience of grief. So they so when they showed up, they were immediately like hearts softened, ready to buy a bluebird house, because they knew that a bluebird house is not always just a bluebird house. So it became this really beautiful way for someone who might not have had the words for grief to get into a rhythm of life in which he could make something, and then to have an experience of how good it feels to make something, especially something for him that was like in memorial of the big love that he had, that like he still needed to nurture, and then to make everything more adorable, his like 90-year-old dad and his like grandkid and everyone started like helping him in the garage making these houses. So there was like energy and like an ecology that could develop around making something that helped like support him and like not get him out of grief, but like accompany him through grief. And that is sort of, I've heard a story like that a million times about how people experience and like try to move through a season like this of intense liminality, right? Like in betweenness is when we're saddled with awful loss or disorientation or fear. How do we still feel those little sparks of hope? And sometimes it's not when we like find something that's like already around or we take like an emotional journey inside. Sometimes it's when we make something, especially if it's something that like we're not expecting it to bear up the weight of our lives. Do you know what I mean? Like it could just be as light as a birdhouse, but enough to show us that we are made to make things, to have that feeling of like a little bit more. We love the experience of momentum. Those are still good things, and they help us show something about our capacity for love and our need for hope. Things that like spread little breadcrumbs of hope everywhere. So I hope you have a beautiful Monday and that you find a second to make something. My kid's gonna make us make Wolverines out of Play-Doh. He already announced it last night, so I'll let you know how that goes. Have a beautiful, terrible day.